closed section.
Chairman,
Uh-huh.
wish to throw a little bit of light on the observation made by the citizen Mgbeke to let us know the word of harmonized version.
Thank you, Mr. President. We actually thought we had some differences between our own version and that of the House. So, yeah, on some of these subsections of the clauses. So, by the time we now step those clauses down and say we should do further consultation on them, and the next day we returned, we found out that it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So I think it must be from the second. They put, if not, either of the two will go. So for me, I would suggest, or I will maybe seek the support of my distinguished colleagues to adopt either House or Senate. It's the same thing. It's just the subsections of those clauses.
Okay, so Mr. Duoko, about having explained and having rectified the situation and also made explanation, I think we should move ahead because everything is now clear. Yeah, we'll take the Senate version.
I think what you need to do, since this is the Senate, all the harmonized affairs before us will now be made Senate version. That will now, for tomorrow, it will be Senate version, not harmonized, Senate version. And then as we take clause by clause, anything, anywhere that I've seen harmonized, we'll now say Senate version.
The one suggestion is in order because by virtue of our rules, it's either or. So, and then luckily from the explanation made by the chairman of finance, by the time they took what they thought were differences, they realized that it was just in terms of drafting, but the meaning was the same. So they now use the word harmonize. So in view of that, I want to say those in support that we proceed to accept not the word harmonize, but a version that is agreeable to the Senate. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the Chairman Finance, so go ahead and conclude.
Clause 72, tax clearance certificates, Senate version. Clause 43, Clause 43.
No, sorry, you are true.
Okay.
Distinguished colleagues, please sit down. Will the Senate now adopt reform bills as presented and as explained? Those in support of the adoption of the tax reform bill say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The tax reform bills are hereby adopted. The Chairman, Finance, members of the Conference Committee, I must thank you for your painstaking and detailed work on behalf of the Senate. You are doing it for the sake of future generations and for better approach to taxation in Nigeria. We believe strongly that your work will live after you for posterity so that Nigeria can have a better and globally accepted taxation policies. So thank you for the great job that you have done. Leader of the Senate. Public hearings when the Senate has important bills. Therefore, the public hearing on, is it third fund, fixed for today, is suspended until 5 p.m. We must finish with the Senate. Yes, proceed.
Again,
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. I stand before this hallowed chamber to present the report on the harmonized copies of the tax reform bills. The Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, the differences in Clause 3, Jurisdiction of Tax Authority, House version adopted. Clause 7, Issuance of Tax Identification, House version adopted. Clause 8, Use of Taxpayers Identification, Senate version adopted. Clause 11, Income Tax for Companies, Senate version adopted. Clause 20, Monthly Returns of Mineral Royalty, House version adopted. Clause 22, Returns for Value Added Tax, House version adopted. Clause 24, Returns of Surcharge, Senate version adopted. Clause 25, Returns for Virtual Asset Services Providers, Senate version adopted. Clause 29, Information to be delivered by bankers and others, House version adopted. Clause 33, Accreditation of Tax Agents, House version adopted. Clause 39, Currency of Assessment and Payment, House version adopted. Clause 41, Revision of Assessment in case of objection, House version adopted. Clause 45, Liability of Manager or Principal Officer, Senate version adopted. Clause 50, Payment of Tax for companies engaged in upstream petroleum operations and midstream liquefied natural gas operations, House version adopted. Clause 59, Power to remove books and documents, House version adopted. Clause 61, Power to distrain, Senate version adopted. Clause 64, Tax Investigation, Senate version adopted. Clause 66, Remission of Penalty, House version adopted. Clause 68, Assignment of Tax Debts, Senate version adopted. Clause 72, Tax Clearance Certificate, harmonized. Clause 78, Power of President to exempt companies from income tax, Senate version adopted. Clause 79, Taxation of Digital and Virtual Transactions, Senate version adopted. Clause 80, Power of Accountant General to deduct at source, Senate version adopted. Clause 81, Distribution of Value-Added Tax Revenue, House version adopted. Clause 82, Transfer of Tax Revenue for Refund, Senate version adopted. Clause 83, National Single Window Portal, Senate version adopted. Clause 89, Establishment and Composition of the Management Board of the State Service, House version adopted. Clause 90, Appointment of the Executive Chairman of the State Service, House version adopted. Clause 91, Functions of the State Board, House version adopted. Clause 92, Establishment of Technical Committee of the State Board, House version adopted. Clause 94, Functions of Revenue Committee, House version adopted. Clause 95, Establishment and Composition of State Joint Revenue Committee, House version adopted. Clause 96, Functions of the State Joint Revenue Service, House version adopted. Clause 97, Exercise of Power by Relevant Tax Authority, House version adopted. Clause 100, Failure to Register, House version adopted. Clause 101, Failure to File Returns, House version adopted. Clause 102, Failure to Keep Books, House version adopted. Clause 109, Penalty for Non-Compliance by BASP, Virtual Assets Services Providers, Senate version adopted. Clause 118, Aiding and Abetting Commission of Offenses, House version adopted. Clause 122, False and Fictitious Claim of VAT Refund, Senate version adopted. Clause 123, Default in Payments of Mineral Royalties, House version adopted. Clause 136, Failure to keep or provide records of chargeable transactions of surcharge, harmonized. Clause 145, Conflict with other laws, House version adopted. And Clause 147, Interpretation, House version adopted. The Nigerian Revenue Service Bill, the difference. Clause 4, Functions of the Service, House version adopted. Clause 7, composition of the governing board, Senate version adopted. Clause 16, executive chairman of the service, House version adopted. Composition of the executive directors, clause 17. That is what is missing. There's clause 17. Please, clerk. Clause 17. Clause 17, composition of the executive directors. House version adopted. Clause 22, fund of the service, House version adopted. Clause 23, expenditure of service, House version adopted. Clause 25, accounts and audits harmonized. Clause 26, annual report harmonized. Clause 30, accountability harmonized. Clause 31, general direction of minister, House version. Clause 36, service of documents, House version. Clause 41, savings and transitional provisions, House version adopted. For the Joint Revenue Board bill, clause 4, composition of the board, House version adopted. Clause 5, functions of the board, Senate version adopted. Clause 10, executive secretary of the board, Senate version adopted. Clause 14, fund of the board, House version adopted. Clause 30, funding of the tribunal, Senate version adopted. Clause 31, remuneration and conditions of service of tax appeal commissioners, House version adopted. Clause 44, funds of the office of the tax ombudsman, Senate version adopted. Clause 59, savings and transitional provisions, House version adopted. Clause interpretation, Senate version adopted. Nigerian tax bill. Clause 4, income, profits, or gains chargeable to tax, House version adopted. Clause 12, resident individuals, Senate version adopted. Clause 13, employment income, House version adopted. Clause 18, non-resident person engaged in shipping or air transport, House version adopted. Clause 27, ascertainment of total profits of companies, House version adopted. Clause 28, total income of an individual, Senate version adopted. Clause 29, presumptive taxation, Senate version adopted. Clause 30, ascertainment of chargeable income of individuals, House version adopted. Clause 34, chargeable assets, House version adopted. Clause 36, disposal of assets provisions as to consideration, Senate version adopted. Clause 40, expenses incurred for disposal of chargeable assets, House version adopted. Clause 56, rates of tax for companies, Senate version adopted. Clause 57, effective tax rate harmonized. Clause 58, rates of tax for individuals, House version adopted. Clause 59, development levy harmonized. Clause 86, provision relating to the commissioning and abandonment of ponds, Senate version adopted. Clause 117, administration of royalties harmonized. Clause 119, unilateral relief of double taxation, Senate version adopted. Clause 123, charge of duties harmonized. Clause 124, manner of denoting duty, Senate version adopted. Clause 25, obligation to stamp, Senate version adopted. Clause 130, conveyance of sale, House version adopted. Clause 133, provisions as to exchange, House version adopted. Clause 134, leases, House version adopted. Clause 136, duty on loan capital, House version adopted. Clause 150, taxable supply by non-residents, Senate version adopted. Clause 155, credit for input tax and remission of VAT, House version adopted. Imposition of surcharge, Clause 158, harmonized. Rate of surcharge, House version adopted. Clause 159, base for surcharge, harmonized. Chargeable services and products for surcharge, House version adopted. Chargeable transaction for such charge, House version adopted. Clause 160, administration of the surcharge harmonized. Clause 161, exemption from surcharge harmonized. Income tax exemption, House version adopted. Production day and qualifying capital expenditure, House version adopted. Publication of economic development incentive certificate, Senate version adopted. Economic development tax credit, House version adopted. Interpretation, House version adopted. Exemption from stamp duties, House version adopted. Exempt supplies, Senate version adopted. Artificial transaction version, House version adopted. Repeals, House version adopted. Consequential amendments, Senate version adopted. Revocation and consequential amendment of subsidiary legislation, Senate version adopted. Clause 200, conflict with others, Senate version adopted. In conclusion, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the Conference Committee expresses appreciation to the leadership of the Senate and House of Representatives and the entire members of the committee for the opportunity to serve. I so submit.